But after a close game like that, you've got to know that you've got what it takes to win against your opponents. There's just some minor tweaks required, a little bit of differences in terms of goals and composition with your team in Champion Select. So I'm curious to see what EnVy decides to change here in round 2 to find themselves a win, take this to game number 3 against Echo Fox. As we do head into picks and bans for the second time, it's Kassadin and Cassiopeia, the two Casses, banned away by Echo Fox to start things off. EnVy taking Zach and LeBlanc off the table.
It's pretty interesting. I really liked the discussion on the desk actually about the fact that when you have a team like Echo Fox who's essentially only scrimming in-house, you do not know what kind of picks that they are bringing out, right? You can practice picks like the Pantheon that may take your opponents off guard, and does EnVy now doubt themselves as far as the picks that they want to go for? If Kennen is open, it's not first pick by Echo Fox. Does EnVy take it, or are they now scared of the Pantheon? Are they scared of these other counter picks that could be prepared?
Right, and you can't just say, okay, we're going to ban Pantheon ourselves, because it's Pantheon. You've got a lot of high priority bans to take care of first. You've got Zach and Galio and LeBlanc and all these things in the game that are way higher priority than Pantheon, so you can't just surrender to that. But Kennen will be the first pickup for Echo Fox. Looper, he beat it last time. He's going to play it this time.
Certainly will, and Seraph is going to have the opportunity to bring out a pick of his own to kind of counter that. Jace, I'm assuming that's going to be a top lane. Jace is actually one of the champions that can just straight up outmatch the Kennen in a 1v1. You do have the advantage of having another ranged champion, essentially. You have very good all-in potential. You can match him in the side lanes, but it is one of those matchups that can swing very heavily in either way. Anytime you have a carry versus carry matchup, it can snowball very, very easily if one of them gets ahead. So I certainly am expecting to see Lee Sin perhaps picked up pretty early, like first round. I think if Acadian's not taken here, I think it's going to go to Lyra for sure, because grabbing one of those aggressive early junglers could be the key to swinging the top lane.
Right, we saw ganks in top lane from both sides last time. Fully expect to see it here again with the carry versus carry, super volatile matchup. But with Caitlyn locked in on the side of Team EnVy, Fox decides that they want to answer with their own AD carry before the pool might get pinched any further. They pick up the Varus second time.
And now, if you think that they're going to go for the jungler, you can either A, take it away, or B, you can grab something like a support and then try to force them. Oh, wow. This is actually a blind Lucian mid.
Okay.
This is actually bizarre. Now, now I'm actually questioning a lot of their pick ban stuff here.
That's a little
Why
strange.
do you ban Kassadin if you want to pick the champion that hard counters Kassadin?
Yeah, the one that we saw, the time that we saw Kassadin mid-picked and Lucian mid-picked into it, Lucian just destroyed it.
Yeah, Lucian is considered like the hard counter to Kassadin. Like, you slam Kassadin. So why are you banning that out? And then blind picking that now means that he's going to have to go up against Victor, which I think, obviously you can win these matchups as Lucian, but Victor gets really terrifying as he gets some levels, as he gets some items going here. You can one-round 80 carries.
Well, that's the reality that Echo Fox is going to find themselves having to deal with now. We head into the second part of the bans. Ivern, the first one taken off the table by EnVy. Junglers from both sides. Normally you don't see junglers make it to the second part of the picking phase.
Yeah.
They're normally adopted very early in the draft, but this time around, since they are still both needing to be picked, more jungler bans can come through. Kha'Zix also going to be banned by EnVy, focusing hard onto Acadian.
I mean, one thing that they did accomplish is the fact that you can probably ban out this Lee Sin here now, right? Like, you have forced him to essentially match a pick because Pyrion wanted to get his most comfortable pick against this AD carry matchup. Lee Sin, no, not even going to have any priority. It's also just somewhat of a problem when you're looking at Echo Fox composition, because you essentially now, assuming it's AD, which it almost always is with Kennen these days, you essentially now have 3 AD carries, right?
Yeah.
So if EnVy wanted draft like a tanky jungler and a tanky support, you go like Braum Gragas or something like that here, like that becomes very tough to actually deal with in team fights, because you can start to stack armor and you can block out a lot of the poke and the ranged auto attacks with that Braum shield. So we'll see if they decide to go for that. Obviously, tanks coming from support and jungle, you're never gonna have as much gold as a top lane tank, so it's not as threatening, but it's like a super one-dimensional comp damage-wise. I mean, yes, you could theoretically go AP Kennen and you can draft some sort of AP jungler here, but like, who are you even going to take for an AP jungle as far as meta competitive stuff, unless you want to go super random and you're drafting something that's not as popular. So Nidalee is an answer, but even then, Nidalee like is not a consistent contributor of damage in team fights generally. It's more of like you have to pick someone out, you have to have skirmishes, and that doesn't really kind of force you into building MR.
Well, the final pick on the side of EnVy to answer it will be Zyra to be paired with Caitlyn there in the bottom lane. And Echo Fox's composition is very scary, like you mentioned, for them, because you do have that whole, if you guys fall behind and Gragas gets ahead, he's just going to be impossibly tanky due to all the armor stacking.
Yeah.
It's similar to what we saw from P1 last weekend when they drafted a very similar setup. They had a Lucian mid, a normal 80 carry bottom, and then, I mean, they had Urgot top, but it was still a 380 carry setup against a Gragas and an AoE mage.
Yeah.
And if you guys missed that game, it went about as you would expect.
Yeah, and while Zyra is not a tank, you can certainly still like have some of the same effects. You can create these zones where it's very difficult for the 80 carries to kind of cross through them. I mean, if you have Nidalee diving in, if you have Thresh diving in, if these guys go into the fight, you can drop your ultimate in between the 80 carry line and the front line, essentially. You have to back off, and you can pick off that front line. I really like the composition from Envy much more. I'm just very confused by the blind Lucian pick.
Yeah.
But that being said, you can snowball. Nidalee is a very heavy snowball champion. If Froggen can get ahead on the Lucian, you can perhaps abuse Victor before he can get those levels, get those items that he needs to deal with these 80 carries. But I think if you're looking at a relatively even game in the early phases, it should be massively Envy favored later. So Echo Fox is going to have to get some real work done, I think.
Maybe we get to see something just completely off the wall here from Echo Fox. Maybe they've got some real crazy plan tucked away, some ace in the hole. Like you mentioned, this is a team that only scrims their own roster.
Yeah.
So they might have some sort of special plan locked away for Lucian mid with Nidalee jungle that takes advantage of their opponents early on and does some sort of cheese, but
I mean, you can like try to siege and stuff, right? You have sustain from the Nidalee. You have Varus, which has decent attack range. You have triple 80 carry if you actually get any time on the turrets. But it's like, well, Victor wave clears insanely well. Zyra wave clears insanely well.
Caitlyn
so
plays
does
traps.
Caitlyn. So does Gragas. Like these are very strong champions into that sort of strategy. So you're looking at an Echo Fox team that needs to split push with the cannon, that needs to skirmish kind of with this Lucian and with this Nidalee. And if they're not able to find this, if they're not able to push the pace of the game, I think they're just going to be in so much trouble.
nobody trying anything at level 1 so far. Like we saw last game with the wards onto the chicken pits early. This game, we're not really going to see that just yet, at least.
And I think, if you are Envy, you're probably saying, hey guys, we outscale super hard this game. Let's not risk anything. Play line of scrimmage. Just super relaxed early game. Try to just essentially trade farm, right? And that's kind of a path to victory for them. That's very legit. I'd also be interested, I think this is a game, while pretty much everyone goes Runic Echoes on Gragas, I actually think this would be a regional game for just a straight up full tank Gragas. Like go Cinder Hulk, you get a Frozen Heart, get Ninja Tabbies early, go pure tank. Because I don't think that his damage is going to be at all relevant with all the DPS that is being brought here. Obviously, it does increase your clear, and there's other things, other factors going into that, why people go Runic Echoes. But with Zyra support, with Jace top, you don't need to deal any damage. If you can just be that tanky threat and just buy time against these 80 carries, I think you'll smash team fights. So it'll be fun to actually track if he decides to mix up that build, but not expecting it.
No, I 100% agree that when you have one guy on the team who can be the tank, and he can absorb so much damage with a single type of stat with the armor stacking, it just makes sense to go for that kind of unorthodox build, but fills the niche required this game. Froggen will take over the lane early here, using the early on power of that Lucian to shove Victor underneath the turret. We know that Victor comes online as a wave clear master later on, but it will take a little bit of time before he can get that second half of the laser and make that his reality.
You need to actually upgrade your Hex score, and that first Hex score upgrade for your laser allows it to have kind of the double proc of damage, the initial damage, and then the second, even higher form of DPS. And Froggen is playing this very aggressively. They're both super low here, both playing with heal, remember? So it's not that Lucian cannot compete in these early stages, it's just that I think it goes more in the Victor's favor the longer this game goes. So we need to see Froggen continue to kind of get work done and try to build an advantage for himself if he can.
It's the opposite story in terms of the pressure and the tempo as what we saw last game, where Echo Fox, you mentioned it a couple of different times, they were comfortable just sitting around, waiting for the game to scale up, saying, all right, look, the longer it goes, the more this will favor us. Don't worry about it, guys. This game, very much a different situation. Echo Fox must be up-tempo.
Yeah, it's a good point. And, it was the composition that they had, and it was also the fact that they had this double Infernal advantage. And now Lyra sneaking around here. Froggen has to play this lane aggressively, and that means he's exposing himself.
Ooh, flash for flash. Froggen gets away from that one. Honestly, about as good as he could.
Yeah, well done by Froggen, I think, there, to be able to escape from that gank. They trade out flashes, but that does mean that Froggen may not be able to continue the aggressive play. Acadian, though, going to try to take advantage of this.
Ooh, finds a good spear onto Lyra there.
Yeah, a little bit too fat to dodge that one in the bush.
When your hitbox takes up most of the bush, well, throwing a spear into the bush is a pretty good strat.
Yeah.
Oh, Gate. Very, very low from that one. The Ignite ticking away, but the shield's going to keep him alive. Apollo controlling this bottom lane with the Caitlyn, though. Lyra being zoned away from his own jungle. Acadian making sure that those spears connect as Looper makes his way in here as well. And with the low HP on Lyra, Envy will be forced to concede this objective. Mini objective.
This is smart from Acadian, right? He knows the fact that Lyra has his flash down, and he has very strong early dueling on this Nidalee. Pyrion should not get hit by a spear. He sees him.
Okay. It was really close.
Yeah, but maybe he wouldn't have been able to actually force as hard had he not hit both of those spears. But either way, you can go and harass the Gragas there, knowing you have the summoner advantage, know you have an early dueling advantage. So he's kind of creating pressure however he can. And this is pretty smart from him. He's going to steal away a couple camps. Nidalee has such a fast early clear, so this is a way that Acadian can get something done, even if he can't necessarily look for a gank.
Just shows up right next to Froggen. Afterwards, zones Pyrion away so that he can't interfere with Froggen keeping this wave shoved up.
One of the funniest things about those ranged junglers is sometimes some of the most effective ganks from a Nidalee is actually just the Nidalee walks into your lane with double bust, auto attacks you a couple times, heals your laning opponent, and now you're at this like huge HP disadvantage.
And there's nothing you can do about it. It's not like you can dodge the auto attacks or the red buff burn.
Yeah, I mean, you can trade back, but Nidalee has such a healthy clear that it doesn't really matter if she takes some damage like that. Acadian, though, being aggressive, moving around, and that does help to give them an idea of where Lyra is going to be. And he's really putting on a lot of pressure through this, and even going to probably freeze this up for Froggen, which is so annoying if you're Pyrion, because that is going to mean that likely a good chunk of the wave can get denied, because both of Pyrion's waves are going to stack up here, and Pyrion now is going to lose a full wave of experience, at the very least, off of that little move from Acadian. So that is really smart.
And this is the kind of attention that Echo Fox gives to Froggen when they know he's going to need it. You mentioned the difficulty of the matchup and how Victor can just one rotation 80 carries. They know that on the side of Echo Fox. Froggen is saying, look, make sure that I'm in a spot where I can do what I need to do. And Acadian says, absolutely.
Yeah, and Froggen now will have XP advantage very heavily, so he will get 6 way faster than Pyrion. He's trying to thin out the wave here now so that Pyrion can't actually shove it all the way into the turret, but he has CS advantage. Pyrion was not able to stay in lane long enough. Hakuo's in trouble.
Hakuo now going to be ignited. Keith not able to find all the damage he needs, but the flash blown from Hakuo means that there might be gank pressure down there eventually from Acadian.
Lyra's got to get there.
Froggen trying to make the moves, but Lyra is there just in time to keep him safe.
I mean, Pyrion took a lot of damage there. Did have confidence that he would be okay, but Acadian now finds Lyra. He's a level up.
Yeah, Lyra's got no flash either, remember. He does have Pyrion over the wall trying to keep him safe here. Spear not going to connect. Acadian dodges away from the laser. He'll clear out some of this vision as well. Envy continuing to find themselves in the back foot against the combo of Froggen and Acadian.
Yeah, Acadian is just really enabling Froggen to win this matchup. He is now up a lot of farm. Pyrion couldn't stay around long enough to get the Hex Core upgrade. That is one of the reasons that Victor kind of fell out of favor when they actually changed it, so it cost $12.50 instead of, I think it was 1K originally or something like that. But anyway, they made it increase in cost. So that first base, it's really unlikely that you actually are able to pick that up. And meaning he doesn't have the upgraded laser. Froggen has a really good buy with the Vamp, so he can continuously trade with the Doran Shield and Vamp and keep healing up. And that's how he's looking to get an edge.
I mean, he's got a 25 CS advantage at this point in the game, Azale. That's absolutely massive 7 minutes into the game. Victor, not normally a champion that you think about just getting smacked around in lane, but Acadian has made sure that's what's happening in this second game between these two teams. Team Envy, across all lanes, it's that mid lane that's the weakness right now. The bottom lane, they've got a slight CS advantage. Top lane, they've got a slight CS advantage, but that's not where the focus has been. That's not where Acadian's been sitting for the last 5 minutes.
Yeah, and you are expecting Pyrion, when he does finally get that Hex Core upgrade, to be able to stabilize the lane because your wave clear becomes so free. So as long as it doesn't actually completely get out of control and he's not just like 50 CS down getting solo killed and stuff, it should be okay. Because while 20 CS is a massive deal now, if Froggen cannot convert on that and start killing him and start getting big advantages, Pyrion will still scale extremely well and will be able to wave clear ridiculously easy once he has that first upgrade.
You can see with the blue buff on him now, he's free to spam those spells as well. Just even if they aren't killing the wave instantly, they're keeping it pushed out, making it harder for Froggen to deny that farm. and keep Pyrion away from the resources he needs to get that upscale potential. Seraph underneath his own turret here in the top side, going for Black Cleaver first on Jace, up against what appears to be the Frozen Mallet first for Lupert's Kennen.
And sometimes people will just actually pick up the Jorum's Fist to start stacking up the HP bonus because it is pretty nice for that. But he certainly could be going for a full Frozen Mallet there.
I'm totally agreeing.
Is good as well, though.
Yeah, totally agreeing with that point. That seems much more likely. The Blade of the Ruined King, while having the extra HP pool, seems like it would be better for the dueling opportunity.
And it just kind of comes down to like how you want to play it and how easily you think you can survive and stuff, right? Both are very viable options. Speaking of kind of what the next moves here for these teams are, I'd love to see Acadian actually go put some focus down on Hakuo, because that is a flashless Zyra, and you have Thresh, right? With Dash. Thresh should be able to very easily set up that kill. A flash play with a Lantern in onto Nidalee, that is extremely hard to avoid death for a Zyra who doesn't have her summoners.
Or even an ultimate yet. Hakuo is still only level 5. Now that's going to change. As soon as I say it, I have to go ahead and jinx myself. But up until 2 seconds ago, he couldn't even throw the Stranglethorns down upon himself. Now it's a little bit of a different story.
Yep.
But Acadian is on this bottom part of the map, so maybe that's what Echo Fox is thinking as they head forward. This game still telling a similar story to game number 1 in that both teams are playing to minimize mistakes instead of force advantages.
Yeah, they really are. And anytime you're in those situations, though, you have to look to who has the edge, right? If the game stays even, if the game goes late. And I really do very strongly feel that Envy will have that edge with more diverse damage profile, with this AoE kind of teamfight mage on the Victor, and a front line, right? That's something that Echo Fox do not have. They don't have a mage. They don't have a tank that the Gragas is going to be either.
Wow, that's a bunch of damage coming out from Froggen. The culling will take Pyrion down below about a third. Meanwhile, Lyra's in the top side. Explosive cast doesn't find anyone. Luper gonna go ahead, pop that Maelstrom, seeing what he can find as Keith, of all people, shows up in the top lane to turn this around. And Echo Fox find 2.
Oh no, Lyra with the big whiff, egg on his face as Luper gonna get the red buff. They get 2 kills there as the roam was already happening for Echo Fox, and now this is a huge advantage for them. They get the 2 kills, they'll be able to get the first turret, and we talked about the early game advantages that they needed. That was their way in.
Man, you come top lane as the jungler, you might expect the enemy jungler. You don't expect the 80 carry.
No, the Thresh was there too. All 3 men get up there fast, and they could not burst down Luper quickly. They thought they would be able to get there, and then Keith actually flashes in to nail that ultimate, healing them off. So really good job there from Keith, and the 2 kills plus the turret going Echo Fox's way may be what they needed to really kind of blow this game open.
Echo Fox now feeling good, now saying, all right, yeah, we have to be active early, but we're on there as Pyrion's Chaos Storm.
It's fine. He's gonna push out the wave.
All right, yeah, he's just pushing the wave with it.
Yeah,
wave push Chaos Storm.
I think either way, you would like it to hit, but he wanted to base regardless. So he is just trying to shove out the wave, reset it on the cannon minion wave, so that he can get back, upgrade his hex core, now come back to lane. But actually, no, he didn't even upgrade again. He just decided to go for upgraded boots, so really delaying that a lot. Maybe he just didn't have the gold again. On those buys, it is a big mark that you have to get to. And if you run out of mana before you get there, it's very dangerous to stay around in the lane on low mana and try to get to that point. So again, Pyrion has to go back before he can do the upgrade.
Plus, if you do hang around in the lane, even if you're not in direct danger of being killed, you pose no threat, you have no pressure of your own. So your opponent's then just free to do whatever they feel like. And whatever they feel like was rotating that bot lane towards top like we saw. But Luper and Seraph, again, going to be 1v1ing down here, but it won't be a 1v1 for long. Acadian trying to show up and find the spear, but quick sidestep gets Seraph away. But outside, the CC coming in. Lyra looking to make the moves, turn this into a 2v3, but instead, it's going to be 2v2, 1-for-1 in terms of those kills. Gate backing himself away. Lyra's not going to be taken down by the turret. Pyrion working his way up there means that Lyra gets away. It's a 1-for-2. Envy take the better trade there, but they're losing their bottom lane tier 1. Seraph TP's in.
He's going to TP in and try to clear the wave with a Shock Blast, I think, here. We'll see if he can actually do that. He does clear it out, so that saves the turret. Seraph probably shouldn't have been fighting even prior to that, because he was fighting into a red buff cannon, which is such an advantage. After he has the better buy, with the kill he got plus the red buff, that's just pretty dangerous. And you cannot approach your opponent in a situation like this, because you're never going to win out in a long trade. That is essentially all of Seraph's burst gone, and then Luper is going to not only have the life steal to heal up over time, but Seraph does at least trade summoners there and stay alive. Oh, actually, did he get the kill? Oh, he did. Wow. I guess we didn't see that last time because it went topside.
Nope, that didn't even show up last time. That was
from
just,
Acadian.
Yeah, a pretty big hoop. Oh, well, we all have them. Everybody has one of those now and again where you dive underneath the turret and think you're going to walk away.
One of those situations where you just absolutely suicide and someone's like, what were you doing? You're like, I'm trying my best.
You just question mark ping yourself in that case. You just say, hey, my bad. I'll be back in 20 seconds. We'll do better. But Echo Fox still got themselves a 3 versus 2 advantage. Still got about 500 gold over their opponents. Froggen continuing to put the pressure here in mid lane, up over 30 CS now. Blade of the Ruined King completed on the Lucian, so very much a 1v1 duelist threat.
Yeah, he really is. He's doing well for himself. Gold relatively even though, because they couldn't actually finish off the turret top, so first turret did go over to Envy, and that is a pretty big deal gold-wise. Keith and Gate almost were able to have the outplay.
Ooh, Froggen pops the seal to stay alive. The Chaos Storm's still ticking, though.
Oh, Pyrian
out of those last couple
back into it.
Yeah, Pyrian, he got really, really low there.
It looks like he maybe got creep walked and pathed a little bit weirdly as he kind of stepped back into that culling, and I was getting pretty worried for him that he might just go down, but he did still have his heal. So if Froggen went forward, he may have been heal baited.
Both these guys do not want to back away. Bottom lane tier 1 falls. Envy takes their turret count up to 2. Lyra and Acadian both showing up here in the mid lane. Lyra takes a lot of damage really fast. Gate tries to throw out the hook. Not going to find anything from that just yet. One thing I want to comment on as well, throwing back to what you mentioned earlier, Azale, the Runic Echoes was the pickup for Lyra's Gragas. That is why it seems like he takes so much damage from Acadian Spears and everything else, because he is still full glass. He's got a Ruby Crystal and that's it. So we're still seeing it a little ways off before the big man gets big tank stats.
And honestly, it can be quite a ways off, right? Like, jungle does not have super reliant income, so the item choices that you make are very important. Because if you are going to go with this, it does increase your clear speed, and it does give you kind of some more threat in the early game, so that's why people do go for that. And it is a good item, but it's just, in a situation like this, it can be so long before he starts to get tanky for the team fights that the kind of one-dimensional team comp here, as far as damage profile that we talked about, may not really come too much into play.
Pyrian shoving the wave in as fast as he can, with Froggen having gone to get the blue buff, but Froggen quickly just finds himself right back into lane where he needs to be. Piercing Light to clear these out. 27,000 to 26.4 thousand gold. Means anything could swing this game in the other side's favor very, very quickly if one team makes a mistake.
It definitely could. Echo Fox are going to be trying to look for these picks, look to force things so that they can push this game ahead. You definitely do not want to be farming this one out, as Pyrian is going to be a monstrous threat. And when you get to the team fight stage, he's going to have so many options on who to target here with his ultimate as well. Because it's not even like he has to look for a specific one target, right? Like, you could go for Looper, Acadian, Froggen, or Keith, and they're all good targets for the victory.
And that's just, it's like Christmas. When you're able to be a character focused on burst like that, and you've got so many different targets that are all viable. The enemy support, the guy you don't want to be targeting, is the only one that's really not an ideal target, so.
Yeah. Make it pretty easy. Something we also didn't talk about here is actually the fact that Seraph went for kind of an atypical mastery. He gets Fervor of Battle on the Jace, and that is because it is a range versus range matchup. And if you're trading those auto attacks in kind of extended fights, it's more about the sustained DPS than it is about just the little quick burst, which you would go for something like a Thunderlord's 4, or even the all-in potential.
Speaking of all-in potential.
Nice.
See how that one actually started off.
Keith uses ultimate and flash, so you got to assume that's a flash ultimate from him or a flash hook from Gate. But they are pressing. They are trying to make these plays, and they will be rewarded with a dragon here, and that's going to be a pretty big one for them. Because grabbing the mountain allows you to really continue to push these objectives, right? You can threaten something like a Baron. Their composition already is going to kill it so fast, and here it is again. We'll see if it did get started up by Keith or Gate. Flash. Oh, yep. Keith has been on point. There it is. Got to give him some credit. The kill's topside. Flashed in to peel for his cannon with that ultimate. Now gets them another kill. And we'll see if they can get anything else besides that dragon. But bot lane turret is very low. The mid lane turret is very low. And that mountain dragon is going to help them picking up these objectives.
And Chains of Corruption has a history of being an easy-to-miss ability, along with the fact that he's flashing to find these. It's not the easiest ability in the world anyway. Their projectile's very slow.
And you look so bad if you flash in and you miss it.
If you flash and miss Chains of Corruption, that's like that's fail reel material.
Yeah.
But Keith is willing to take that risk. He's putting his own reputation on the line to make sure that he's saving teammates and finding picks and getting Echo Fox going.
And he's doing it. So far, so good for Keith. And Froggen is very ahead of Pyrion as far as the farm goes. So that is certainly somewhat of a concern as Froggen, they've given a ton of attention to him. He has been able to utilize that to get a big farm advantage. We'll see if he can convert, if he can really be effective in these team fights, because there's going to be so many factors that he has to watch out for. Not only is it just Pyrion, but he has to be careful about getting knocked in by the Gragas, about getting rooted up and ultimated by this Zyra. So lots of things he has to watch out for.
Again, going in onto Pyrion here, now backing himself away from that Chaos Storm. But I want to check in, Azael, back onto the overarching goal that you sort of outlined for Echo Fox at the beginning of the game after we saw the finalized draft. They needed to get ahead early. They needed to make this work at the start of the game so their comp weakness wouldn't just make them lose later on. You can see they're ahead. You can see they've got 2,000 gold up and more kills. But is that enough? Are they on track?
I think it's enough for now. I think that, these compositions, because a lot of it is dependent upon how tanky, how much people are itemizing against it. All AD compositions are fine if no one's building armor, and really the only armor on all of Envy is a Glacial Shroud, right? That is not that big of a deal to
20 armor?
Something like that, 20, 25. So it's not a big concern yet. Where they really get concerned is if you go to like the 35-minute mark and this is like a 3 armor item Gragas, that's where it's really concerning. I think that you always have to be worried if you are not quite a bit ahead as Echo Fox, because the game is just going to slowly move more and more in your opponent's favor. So while they are okay for now, they need to continue to extend the gold lead, not just sit on it. You have to be proactive.
Next Drake will be Cloud once that is up. Fox did get that first mountain like we observed a moment ago. See if they can continue to maintain control over these neutral objectives, as Envy's still got control over their own jungle nicely, passing those blue buffs off to Pyrion. You can see a lot of wards from Team Envy around this top part of the map as well, especially around the river. Knowing that they're now past the 20-minute mark into the game, they recognize the fact that Baron Nashor is on the table, and you've always got to have that in the back of your mind, lest you end up losing one of those sneak Barons that can really take a close game and turn it into a mess.
Yeah, it really can, and especially Echo Fox will be able to kill it hilariously fast. I mean, so can Envy, honestly, but Mountain Dragon added into a triple AD carry plus Nidalee, that's a lot of DPS. So Envy has to be very careful that they do not give that up. Because we talk about something that gives you the ability to snowball and close out a game. The Baron is that in a nutshell, right? So that is going to be a big ticket objective for Echo Fox, and Envy is really going to have to keep tracking that, keep fighting for vision as a team, making sure that Echo Fox never has an opportunity to take a free Baron.
Taking a look at exactly how everybody's stacking up now that laning phase is pretty much officially over. Top lane, 10 CS differentiating between these guys. The jungle, obviously Acadian going to have a farm edge. He's on the Nidalee. You would expect Nidalee to outfarm her opponent. Biggest CS advantage, though, still the story being told there in the mid lane. Almost 60 lead for Froggen, who...
they don't know he's there.
Ooh. They don't even recognize he's hanging around in that bush. He's going to find Apollo, though, put the burst on him real quick. Trying to find a couple more auto attacks. Not quite getting him, just barely missing out. Looper coming in from the flank, but Froggen still going to be taken very low. Acadian grabbing the kill onto Pyrion. Froggen is down. Looper still seeing if he can maybe come around, make something happen there. Flash ult, both ready to go. It's a 2-for-1 so far. Froggen not feeling good about the fact that he barely missed out on some kills, but should feel okay about that trade 1-for-2 overall.
Yeah, they do win the trade overall, and Froggen was so close to killing off a couple people. He doesn't get the kill, but he essentially earns the kill on Apollo. He is in a pretty rough spot here, and so he just waits, he bides his time, and he finds a chance over onto Keith. And meanwhile, Pyrion getting picked off by the bot lane duo. They're able to finish him off there. And Apollo gets over the wall, but he's in enemy territory. He's going to go down, and now Echo Fox looking to set up a trap and hoping that they can get some kills when Envy comes to contest that Baron Vision.
And this is what you want to see from a team that you said they need to be proactive, right? When you take down that outer lane of turrets, when you've got those 3 under your belt, you move into enemy territory. You throw down a couple control wards in their jungle, set up in a bush, and see if you can find a pick, and then snowball even further off of that.
Yeah, I agree completely. I think that needs to be their focus. The question becomes, when do they have the confidence to actually pull the trigger and start up the Baron? Because if your opponents are playing conservatively and not face checking you when they have no vision, you need to force them into a response. And you do that by starting up the Baron. But some teams are too passive around the Baron and just willing to sit back, and they don't want to take the risk. But in a game like this, we've talked about it, you have to push the pace. You have to get stuff done.
Lyra and the rest of EnVy have set up the trap line, sieging outside the mid lane tier 1, and they will find that when tying up that turret count, making that 3-3 both ways.
And EnVy's siege comp is actually pretty nasty when you look at this. Jace to poke you off, the Caitlyn trap line. You have disengage from Aqua if they try to come into you. You have zone control with the Victor gravity field. Like, there's really, really strong siege here from this team. I've got to criticize Lyra a little bit, though. I actually hate that he's building a Spirit Visage before his throw charge.
I was just about to mention that to you.
I hate that.
As Seraph is now taking a lot of damage from this culling. But you and I were having a conversation about itemization just the other day, Azael, talking about sometimes the prioritization choices we see. And when you're up against 3 different Blade of the Ruined Kings, Spirit Visage seems very hard to justify.
And I just think it's like, okay, great. It works really well with your passive. Xbox are looking for a pick, so we'll watch this for a second. But it works very well with the passive, so it increases the healing you get from that. That's great. Gives you CDR. That's great.
Yeah.
But you're against 380 carries. Frozen Heart, like, not only does it give you the CDR, the reduced auto attack speed, like, that aura is so hilariously powerful in a team fight that you are, like, you're really making a mistake, I think, by not building that first. And I guess you can say he's worried about not having enough HP to back that up or something like this. But these are the kind of things that you may use to justify that. But it's just an Italy. That's the only person dealing AP.
Now he's going to be grabbed. There comes all the damage coming through. He will stay alive for now, ever so barely. Courage of the Colossus giving him that extra shield to make sure he doesn't drop too low.
But Echo Fox just go right back to it. They keep baiting. And now, if Lyra does not check again, you need to start this up. And Lyra walking forward, he's going to get killed for sure. And Echo Fox, gets out.
Froggen dashes in, but doesn't quite have the damage to just immediately blow him up.
It seemed like they could have had a little bit more patience and perhaps gotten that kill. Froggen really wanted to jump in there and kill him off. But now they're starting the Baron. EnVy should be relatively aware of this. They do have a blue ward in that pit. I'm not sure if that was previously there or they saw them starting it up. But they are not moving in. This could just be Echo Fox's Baron. Looks like it will.
Lyra is low. They're very, very aware of that. The Baron is low. The Baron's down. Echo Fox, 26 minutes in, takes it.
Great job by Echo Fox. That's exactly what we needed to see. You have to do part 2. They baited him out. They don't kill Lyra, but they have chunked him very low. They know either he goes back to base and we get it, or he stays around and he loses the fight.
Ooh. Apollo quickly finding half of his health bar disappearing right before his eyes. Froggen dashing in there with the Black Cleaver, Blade of the Ruined King, extra zeal added onto it. The Lucian damage is starting to become that level where when he dashes on top of you, if you don't immediately have a response, you are going to see half your health just completely removed.
Yeah, especially the fact that he's level 16. He's the highest level in the game, tied with Looper there, a couple levels up on Pyrian and Apollo. And the Baron minions are going to make it really hard for these guys to wave clear. They do have fantastic wave clear, but even with all of these members helping it out, Echo Fox should be able to knock down some turrets and really try to extend that gold lead. We'll just see how much they can get.
Oh! They might just end up losing their mid laner, though. Froggen getting himself juggled around and beaten down, while Keith, Gate, and Acadian find themselves running into some trouble here in the jungle. They almost found a kill onto Hawkwo. You can see his health bar blinking red. Pyrian coming in, trying to make something happen here. Gate gonna grab the death sentence onto him. Ace in the hole coming through. Keith doesn't block it, and Gate goes down.
And that's actually like somewhat costly, giving up not only the Baron buff, but that kill. I definitely should have tried to block that because EnVy now buy some time, right? The Baron is not going to be nearly as impactful now. They get a couple kills. They're allowed to move around the map and reset these waves. Bot lane is pushing for them. Top lane will be as well. And EnVy are the ones who are probably going to take away this dragon.
And that's the kind of momentum slip that Echo Fox can't afford to just give away. You get Baron in 26 minutes. You get it uncontested. You're not supposed to just let that slip. I was going to make a cheeky comment about the 349 or 163 Baron power play from game number 1 and how they've got quite a high standard to live up to here, but based on plays like that and that loss of momentum, we might see those kind of numbers be put up again.
Yeah, it's certainly possible. Credit to EnVy, though, for finding the picks, right?
Absolutely.
They know that they're going to try to set up this kind of 1-3-1. They have a powerful mid laner with Froggen. You talked about the powerful item spikes that he had. The point is very high level, but he goes forward, and you can get picked off so easily by the Gragas and Victor combo. So it's tough. It's really a hard line to walk when you kind of paint yourselves into a bit of a corner when you draft a composition like this, because you must be aggressive, you must push the pace, or you'll get outscaled, and it's not that easy to do.
Now Looper's the one finding himself caught in a 1 versus 3, trying to escape, popping the Maelstrom just to do that.
Facing. They're still going.
Trying to get out of this one, buying as much time as he can against all 4 of these guys. He will definitely die. Echo Fox marches up the mid lane now. Back's being channeled. Froggen is in the bottom lane, moving himself towards this tier 2. If nothing else, they should take this, because Fox will have to answer the mid lane tier 3, which is rapidly finding itself being destroyed. Chains of Corruption just thrown out to try to zone them away, but they cannot get the turret.
I mean, they lose a mid tier 2, a bot tier 2. Sure, you killed off Looper, but that is a big overchase, and I feel like with the situation that EnVy were in, they didn't need to force for that. Obviously, they were hoping that they could kill him off instantly and then get back and not lose all this. But in the situation they're in, they almost even lost the inhibitor turret, which would have been 3 turrets for 1 kill trade.
Baron buff with only 2 seconds left to go on it, so the Echo Fox Baron push will come to its untimely end with the death of Looper and the retreat of the rest of the team. That mid lane tier 3 is very, very close to being destroyed. If Echo Fox can find themselves in a spot to set up siege outside that and just be 1 or 2 seconds ahead of EnVy, they can take that down before it regenerates too heavily.
Yep, and they would certainly like to do that, but EnVy can be proactive. They want to get their lanes pushing. Don't allow them to kind of get the time to get up to their turret and set up to finish that off. EnVy are really getting, I think, to the point where it is going to be harder and harder and harder for them. When the Frozen Heart's completed for Lyra, that'll be a big spike. I'm also actually shocked that he has not built Ninja Tabbies 30 minutes into the game against AD carries. That is a big question mark for me here too. But when he starts eventually completing these items, as I'm sure he will, it's going to get so much harder to kill him. And just like the ambient reduction of power that he's going to provide in a team fight by reducing everyone's attack speed by 20% is so good against this comp that it can perhaps give the freedom for Apollo, who's actually getting really strong on the Caitlyn, and Pyrion, who's getting really strong on his Victor, to take over.
Yeah, with the 500 gold to complete the Frozen Heart, or I believe it's around 500 gold, something like that. Either way, and then 800 gold to change your brown boot into a Ninja Tabby. The next 1,500 gold or so is probably going to be the most effective 1,500 gold at any point in this game on this map. Yeah, I agree. For Lyra.
I think the Tabbies and Frozen Heart are certainly the 2 most effective items that anyone can build in this game against a triple AD carry composition. So it is smart optimization that he's going to be going for that eventually. I just don't agree with the path he's taking to get there.
Right. He has finally got that Frozen Heart online. Like you said, watch for the impact of that in the next team fight. Watch and see if it seems like there's a lot less auto attack damage coming out from these Echo Fox AD carries, because if you're in range of that aura, it really does make a significant impact.
Yeah, it's pretty big. And we're also going to have to see some really great play from Keith, from Froggen, from Looper, avoiding skill shots, avoiding roots, avoiding the Victor laser, and still getting in there to deal damage, because you cannot sit passively back, or they will simply move forward as a 5-man squad and annihilate you, right? Because they have the front line, they have the zoning with the Zyra, and you don't. So Froggen needs to utilize his gold, and we'll see if he can, dash past Zyra roots and pick people off and things like that, because we're going to need to see that level of kind of outplays if they're to win team fights.
Now, Seraph has recently completed Death's Dance, his 3rd item, but he's still struggling in that 1v1 against Looper, who, with Phantom Dancer, reduces his damage by that much more, also has the ability to crit. Very, very effective in the 1v1 as a duelist item itself.
I do like the Death Stance, though, because since Looper was sitting on lifesteal, he could constantly do these trades and heal back up. This allows Seraph to kind of stay around and have a lot more staying power in that 1v1, because even if he gets chunked out, he can heal back up so quickly with the Death Stance off the next minion wave, and then continue to hold the line. Because he doesn't, at this point, actually have to win a 1v1. He just has to not die.
Speaking of not dying, trying to force the fight here onto Looper and just can't do it. Sometimes it's a tall order, Azale.
Yeah, I mean, you just have to chill. When you outscale, you just have to hang out, wave clear. But sometimes players get a little bit aggressive, and I'm not sure if he had thought Looper had base and Looper caught him out there, or if he opted into that 1v1 aggressively. Because I do think if he chose that fight, it was a poor one to take. Just in this situation, not even because he lost. Because they outscale, and now they're going to be pressured very heavily. There's no one to answer Looper. Echo Fox is going to pressure Baron, and that has put EnVy in a very tough spot.
Yeah, the Baron timer. All right, the Chains of Corruption into the Death Sentence combo there, a little bit off the mark. That's actually so big, because that means that Echo Fox doesn't just get a free Baron rush. Right. But now Apollo, if he finds himself caught out, that might be the disaster that Echo Fox needs to bestow upon EnVy. A little bit more damage. They'll find the AD carry. Lyra going to be forced to flash away as Froggen continues that pursuit, trying to find that last little bit of damage. The flash into the Relentless, and that's a double kill for the Lucian, trying to get himself away with the heal. Not quite. It's at least a 1 for 2.
Yeah, and that's a big kill. Taking Froggen off the map means they still have a chance to contest this because Seraph is back up. They need to get over there now. This is a Victor without ultimate, but Zyra does have his. Seraph is still pretty strong, and the Baron is doing some work for you. So we need to see EnVy try to contest this. We'll see if they can actually get in.
That's still 2 AD carries with Blade of the Ruined King. Keith, the only one marginally low. Fox may still be able to turn this one around. You've got to be careful if you're Team EnVy.
Yeah, and as Echo Fox gets out, they're just going to have to back off. EnVy's going to have to give that up, and it all started, with that 1v1 fight between Seraph and Looper. You give that up, you give the map pressure over to your opponents, you force your team in this awkward position where you have to check in, but they're on Looper again.
Looper, the one jumped on, but turning it around quickly. Seraph going to be forced to jump himself out of this one. Acadian tosses out a spear. Hakuo almost turns right back around into it. The fight will disengage. And one thing I want to draw your attention to, Azael, because I don't see what the goal is here. Lyra has done ninja tabbies. Not ninja tabbies, Mercury treads this game instead of the ninja tabbies, I meant to say. It's going to stop cannon stuns. It's going to stop change of corruption.
That's there's some stuff, but I just think it's really poor itemization from Lyra. So definitely pretty disappointed. But here's the fight starting out again, and it's a good aggressive move onto Apollo. They're collapsing from all sides because their top laner is dead. Jace has already lost his 1v1. He got taken out. So the collapse is really nice, and I like the force of the fight here from Echo Fox. So definitely a well-played fight there from them, but Pyrion is able to get in, at least trade 1 kill back, which keeps it from being a total disaster. But we're back kind of to the situation now where Echo Fox is trying to press, is trying to end this game. And we do have to remember that mid lane turret is very low from last time when they did that kind of big chase onto Looper and tried to get him down. So that will be very susceptible if Echo Fox can get up to that. But the gold lead, while it is big for Echo Fox, I don't think that is out of reach by any means here for EnVy.
And let's remember the sins committed by Echo Fox last time as well. Overreaching after getting the Baron, ending up with a couple people dead, not being able to use that push power the way they expected to. They need to be very conscious of that. Remember those mistakes, not make them a second time if they really want to have a big impact with this second Baron.
Yeah, I completely agree. And, looking for an ultimate there on Keith, not able to get it, but Lyra does have a ton of CDR at least, and that's rank 3 ultimate, so it's not going to be too long until it's back up. It's about a 48-second cooldown.
And one thing I want to go back to, because it's specifically what you said earlier. When you get to 35 minutes in this game, you told me, when that Gragas has 3 big armor items, that's when you've got a problem, but he's still only got 1, and now he's rooted up. Echo Fox is still in a spot where this composition has not been punished.
Yeah, at all, really. I mean, Lyra, he decided to go for a Spirit Visage instead of another armor item. He didn't build Ninja Tabbies. So I was expecting him to be much tankier against this composition at this point of the game, but because of his itemization choices, he's not really there yet. And also because he has not really picked as many kills for himself or gotten a huge injection of gold. So EnVy's still hanging on. I still do favor their team fighting 5v5, but they're getting pressed, and they're getting pressed very heavily by this 1-3-1 with the Baron buff.
The BF sword in the inventory of Looper. Going to draw your eyes to that one for just a second because we could see Infinity Edge Kinnan for the second time in this series. I don't quite know if he's going to go for that. Maybe it could just be a Guardian Angel, something more likely along those lines.
Yeah, the Guardian Angel would make a lot of sense, but I mean, when you have double Zeal items, IE is a massive damage increase. It's just, can you stay alive to actually be effective with it? That is the question. And that is what we didn't see pay off last game, but they will get the inhibitor turret down and likely can press in for the inhibitor, but it is scary trying to siege uphill into this comp because they still have so much wave clear, and if you get knocked into the Zyra, you're probably going to go down pretty quickly.
I mean, we saw the damage that came out onto the health bars of Froggen and Keith there when the shock blast found its way into those back lines. Another one finding Froggen just now. And he has to get himself away. The collapse coming in from Lyra on the side, but won't be able to make it in time as the rest of Echo Fox continues pressuring towards the base. Acadian and Keith here in the mid lane trying to put damage onto that inhib, now exposed.
Yeah, and Acadian's build, I think, is very smart for what they're trying to do. They're not trying to necessarily team fight. They're trying to siege and poke, and he has a Lich Bane, which is going to help you shred the turrets. And then he built the Athenes, which when he lands poke, he will be able to heal up his teammates even more because of that and keep them there for the siege. Has more staying power. He knows it's not necessarily about the all-in team fight. It's not like buy elutes and one-shot them. It's hang around, survive, poke them out, take objectives, and I think the build makes a lot of sense for that goal.
And with another needlessly large rod and blasting wand in the inventory, that means those spears and those heals together, everything's just going to have that much more kick once he completes that next item as well. Baron power play, 3,100 gold. That's the kind of numbers we're talking about, Azael. That's what we've been waiting for.
Yeah, that's definitely a lot better. We have seen some massive ones this split where, up over 7,000 gold even, so it's definitely not enormous, but it's certainly trending in the right direction. They have opened themselves up a big gold lead. Echo Fox, I think, is playing out the game very well, but you still are concerned if you're Echo Fox because of the composition that you've drafted, because of how much harder I think it is to execute what they have for themselves. But EnVy, has made some mistakes and allowed them to really find their ways in, and Echo Fox has been doing a good job of splitting up the fights and pushing out the waves so they can't get that 5v5.
Next Baron going to be coming up 100 seconds from now. Elder Drake also the next one that's going to be live from here on out. He's not quite going to be showing up for a little while. But EnVy has seemed like they're on the back foot the entirety of this game. Looper going to find Seraph face checking the brush there, but now Looper's going to be the one in a 1v2 having to escape the Stranglethorns. Still gets caught by the Grasping Roots, but look at the damage to Hakuo's health bar from a single auto attack.
Seraph is at like 1 HP from the Death Dance thought that was on him. He wasn't actually life-stealing. That was actually really risky. Maybe he should have stayed around and tried to lifesteal off those creeps, but perhaps had it calculated. Either way, Looper winning out in that 1v2 means more pressure for Echo Fox. Froggen's on the top side. They're pushing in mid lane.
Looper's very effective on this kid.
Yeah, he's smashing Seraph, to be honest with you. Like, both games, he has really been outplaying him, and he is bullying Seraph very hard. Although they are, obviously very close as far as farm and itemization, Seraph is getting pressured very heavily, and that is drawing more attention from EnVy, and Looper is not dying when he draws that attention, which is exactly what you want out of a split pusher.
Yeah, that's the name of the game for split pushing.
Yep.
Get more bodies towards you, and don't give free gold away in the process.
Exactly. Create pressure. Pull them down to you, then back off, and he is doing that so well. Again, Hakuo has to come down to help, tries to find something there, but they're not able to. And this means that then there's advantageous matchups on the other sides, right? There's more people for Echo Fox than there will be for EnVy.
Ooh, instant QSS from Apollo as those chains came out, getting himself away from the CC from his opponent in Keith. Keith almost full build in his own right this game. You can see 6 items under the belts of both Froggen and Looper. Keith at 5.5 just needs to evolve that last Whisper into either Lord Dominic's Regards or Mortal Reminder. As Baron number 3 comes up and Echo Fox decides to head on over.
It may be gone before EnVy even gets there if they don't go fast, and I think it will be. Lyra may spot this. He'll have a chance. He'll see.
Lyra makes his way over. Hakuo's already dead. Froggen going to be taken low. GA popped. Lyra trying to escape. The spear finds its way onto Pyrian. Apollo grabbing the kill onto Froggen. Pyrian on the run. They've already lost 3 on the side of EnVy, and with Pyrian trying to escape with his life, Echo Fox decides they don't even need Baron to potentially end this here. Looper is still set up in the bottom lane, and Acadian leads the charge.
At the very least, you can crack a couple inhibitors here. The top turret has almost no health on it. They're going to get this inhibitor. They're already pushing the bot. They could potentially go around the horn, get all 3 inhibitors here. And Echo Fox are looking to deal that killing blow.
And a 3-inhib game, Azael, is so damn hard to come back from.
It really is.
Double supers in every lane. The amount of pressure
they're just trying to end
is just insane. But now Seraph and Pyrian have to pull off the 2 versus 4. Nexus turret number 1 is down. Here comes Looper, ult into the fight, takes down Pyrian. Seraph having to run away still. Hakuo back up, but the turrets are not. Seraph going to be pulled in. He has nothing left to say and no way left to say it. The Nexus falls, and Fox goes 2-0.
Really well-played game there from Echo Fox. I am very impressed with how they played that one out. I think it was a really hard game to win against EnVy's composition, but Echo Fox pushed the pace well. They found picks. They controlled vision around Baron very well. They showed both an understanding of their wing distance, their composition, and also of really how to close out and kind of control against EnVy, who has looked like a very strong team.
Yeah, EnVy wasn't a team that looks like they were 10th. In last split, right? This is a team, like we said at the start of this series, that has had substantial improvements throughout the first couple of weeks of Summer Split. Echo Fox the same way. So finding this win, like we prefaced this match with, shows that Echo Fox is the kind of team who could be worthy of saying, look, we're in the top half of teams this time.
Yeah, I definitely think so. And for EnVy, it is kind of some of those struggles that they had. As far as I think they showed a little bit of a lack of understanding of their win conditions, what they had to do. Seraph forcing too hard into some of these 1v1s, losing that 1v1 fight against Looper on the cannon actually spiraled that game kind of out of control. I think that they were at a point where they could stabilize and they should have a compositional advantage, but the fact that Lyra is not stacking armor against a 380 carry team, not even building ninja tabbies, that was a real head scratcher to me. And the fact that Seraph is trying to force for a 1v1 in a situation where literally all you need to do is wave clear and just allow yourselves to not get pulled apart. Because if you can get like a relatively even full item fight with Victor and an armor stacking Gragas against a 380 carry team, like it should be very easy. But when you get taken out in that 1v1, you lose total control of the map. That's how they lost Baron. That's how they lost their inhibitors. It's like you force yourself into these hard positions. And I think that Envy still certainly has some work to do as far as the late game, but Echo Fox have a lot to be proud of here.
Yeah, it's mistakes from the side that lost, as well as some fantastic successes from the side who won. Acadian also, go back to the very first moments of the game, sitting mid lane for the longest amount of time, making sure that lane didn't get out of control, making sure Froggen was still going to be effective going into mid game, as well as throughout the laning phase, and keeping Pyrian down.
And I'd also like to give some credit to Keith. I think he had actually a lot of really good Varus ultimates. Even the roam that they had top where they turn around that 2v1 gank onto Looper, that was a big swing point, which kind of put Looper ahead. And the fact that he's able to hit multiple flash chains of corruption on that Varus to get themselves kills and to put themselves in a good spot. I think that the bot lane here from Echo Fox have put in a pretty good performance.
And that's what we wanted to see from this team. A team that had these struggles in the mid game, had these struggles translating leads into actual wins. A team that sometimes we saw working together with a couple people seeming like they were out of the loop, all coming together and playing as 5 is an impressive thing to see. But for a first-hand account on that Fox win, let's hear from Pace.